right, I'm back in this odd position for me, where I film at least, of doing day two of Canada Reads, where we've got yesterday, the Two Trees Make a Forest by Jessica J. Lee, defended by Scott Hellman, was eliminated as the first kind of the first of the five things. The other ones being the Butter Honey Pig Bread by Francesca Luis Ecuisia, A Hench by Natalie Zena Walschatz, Johnny Appleseed by Joshua Whitehead, and The Midnight Bargain by C.L. Polk. And actually, I really enjoyed this episode because on the subject of Hench, there was actually a good back and forth between, I think it was Scott Hellman and the defender of the book, Paul Sun Sun Hun Lee, about the book Hench, in that Hellman felt it was being amoral, in that it was like there is no evil and there is no good. There's only gray, and he kind of took exception to that, feeling that it was a book that wasn't really. It should be a book that should kind of uplift. It's a book that should have a kind of a good, should have a moral center, I guess, is what he was charging with not having. So it was actually kind of a good back and forth, and it just sort of, to me, it illuminated the idea of, like, how you can have a book like this, and one person could see it as fun, another person could see it as kind of an allegory for superheroes as like kind of corporations or police, and like, is the amount of good they do, or the amount of benefit they bring society, is that outweighed by the amount of damage that can also get done, the thing. So it was interesting that way, but also just the idea of, like, no, I need a positive, this, for some people, a book needs to have a positive message, and it needs to have a positive role model, whereas another person, that might not be the main thing, or they might be like, well, the reader should bring that to the book, not necessarily the book has to impose that on the reader. So yeah, that was actually a really entertaining, little interesting discussion that they had there, which, I think is like the best book club, where you can have two people who can have different takes on the book because they're coming at it from different angles, and how a book can be just so different for one person versus another one. So I really, actually, that I enjoyed that. We had a bit of a book discussion there. Butter Honey Pig Bread, I still feel like I haven't gotten kind of like a hold on the book. I mean, I haven't read any of these books, but it's like, it might be a little bit too complex of a book. Actually, it's interesting. It's one of these books that did get that charge, which sometimes literary books do get in this, of being too literary, of being too masterful in its writing, and it didn't allow the reader, some of the people reading it, at least one person who was defending their own book, so trying to come up with excuses, saying like, well, I never forgot that I was reading a book because the writing was so good, which is an argument. I mean, it's something that kind of says that there are things that become bestsellers are things that become bestsellers that only have like the barest skill of writing, but that it doesn't get in the way, that it just smoothly slips through. I mean, some bestsellers, to write a bestseller, sometimes you have to have that skill of being able to write a book that has no speed bumps in it whatsoever, doesn't challenge anyone whatsoever on a language thing, so that you can get this in mainline, the story just injects right into the brain. Whereas if the language is a little bit more difficult, if the techniques are a little bit more in your face and challenge the reader, that can kind of bump people up. But that's also just sort of different levels of readers. I like my literary fiction. I also like my genre fiction. And it depends on what mood I'm in for it. Johnny Appleseed, I don't know if we got particularly much. I think there was just a sort of a thing of, they felt like there wasn't enough drama in the book, was the charge that was leveled against it this time. And then The Midnight Bargain, I think it kind of came down to, again, it's the idea of like, it's a dystopia. It felt like maybe it was maybe thumping its message a little too hard. And also just maybe that wasn't as interesting enough of a message, the whole thing of the patriarchy. It's like, Margaret Atwood competed on. I don't think she competed on it for one of the Handmaid's Tales books, but I mean, it's a book that's been written a while ago that was a dystopia about a patriarchal system, which I don't know if that is a fair comparison to make in this kind of fantasy. I wonder if this book is a little bit more fun than what they've been able to get across in the thing. Fantasy romance is what I've heard it termed as by others, but that hasn't really come up in this reading. It's all been kind of the oatmeal parts of it, which in the end, they did the vote. And actually the votes got spread out quite a bit between all the different people. But in the end, it came down to that you know it came down to what did it come down to? It was a tie, I think, in the end. What is it here? Oh, wait. I don't know if it says, but really, in the end, it was Polk, Midnight Bargain by C.L. Polk that got eliminated, and so we are now down to Johnny Appleseed by Josh Whitehead, Hench by Natalie Zena Walshotz, and Butter Honey Pig by Francesca Ukuwesi? I'm gonna have to really learn my pronunciation. Dumbass white dude. It's down to those three. It'll be interesting to see what's next. Hench is a bit of a genre book, so that might be its weakness, is that it's too fun of a book. A lot of times for things like this, it does come down to what's the most worthy book, the book that we're going to make all Canadians read, which they're not. The majority of Canadians are not going to read any of these books. But I know I'm going to read Butter Honey Pig Bread because I've got it up in the queue for library books. It'll be coming up as a read for me. Hench might be a fun. I think it's funny. It's like I look at them. Butter Honey Pig I'm going to read because of the Poptimist recommending it. Hench I think I would read just because it sounds like it's a fun book. Johnny Appleseed sounds like kind of an interesting book. Definitely, transgendered character, two-spirited character. Sounds like that would be like kind of just really interesting read. Two Trees Make a Forest. I mean, I would have to read the back of that. Nothing in the show has made me want to read it. The same thing with The Midnight Bargain by C.L. Polk. I'd have to learn more. It's interesting that the two that have gotten eliminated so far are the ones that strictly on what the contestants have put forward are the two ones that, I wouldn't particularly be that as interested to read. Now we're down to the three that, I actually would be interested in reading them. It's funny. It's like Hench is like, it's a fun read. So maybe that's lower down on a priority for me than Johnny Appleseed. And then obviously Butter Honey Pig Bread is at the top of my list as the book I'm going to read, even though I don't think that they've actually done a particularly good job of highlighting its strengths. It sounds like it's one of those books you should be reading lines from to get kind of a sense of the language, because it's a language book, and maybe that would light my fire there. But I will get lots of words from that book because I'm going to be getting the audiobook of it. All right, I will leave it there. That is Canada Reads Day 2. Actually, and I'm recording this on Day 3, so I can probably go listen to that now, and then I'll update you tomorrow as I'm doing this for whatever goddamn reason. All right, more videos later.